Welcome back to Foxborough Rush. Annabelle Hasselbeck Khalin Kapoor and Alex Barth. Pete Carroll and co. are coming to New England, opening up the season at Gillette, getting ready for the big game next Sunday. And we saw that Christian Gonzalez did not practice again yesterday, dealing with a left hamstring injury. And should we expect him to play week one? Because this is definitely raising some concerns, just even what we talked about earlier on the show with the Patriots defense.
Yeah, hamstrings are tricky. They're always tricky, and there was a report from Jeff Howe this morning that there was some uncertainty about his status. I look at Wednesday as the day you go from, call it lowercase w worried to capital W worried about Christian Gonzalez. It's a guy, hamstrings are tricky, and he's their best player. Like, you want to be cautious with him. You want to slow play it with him. It didn't bother me, even if he could have been out there, that he missed a ton of camp. Now it's sounding like maybe that was more based on the injury than simply just caution from the Patriots. But Wednesday's when you start the game prep, right? And they've been preparing for the Raiders, but that's when you really get into it, first practice of the week. So if he's not out there Wednesday, that's when I go from like, I wonder if he'll play, to, okay, now I think he might not play. But it's, again, lowercase w worried right now. He could be out there Wednesday, and all right, they just want to give him the extra week to get set. And once it really gets down to it, he'll be out there. That's when it's like, okay, now he's missing real time that, like, he needs to be out there and get ready for this opponent, as opposed to training camp where it's more just basic preparation. So that will be the big tell for me.
And Alex, what's your read on just the way to play an injury like this, where if you go to get him out there full speed, there's that risk of re-aggravation, a soft tissue injury? The word tricky was used a lot in the reporting about this injury, and that's not a great word to hear when you're talking about a hamstring injury.
No.
So what do you think about just the best way to play this when you're considering the long-term effects potentially of getting him out there and having him re-aggravate an injury?
So I'm not a doctor, far from it. I don't know the finer points of hamstring recovery. I would just say these are, like you pointed out, this is a thing that can be re-aggravated. Having him play 2 weeks to then miss 6 would be worse than having him miss 2 or 3 weeks to start the season and then be good. So I think you want to be cautious, but at the same time, this is a team that needs to get off to a good start. Their schedule is weaker at the beginning than it is at the end. They need to bank wins early on while they can. Now, I don't know that they necessarily need him to beat the Raiders. It definitely doesn't help because it's a close game, but the Raiders don't have a ton of wide receiver talent unless they planned on putting him on Brock Bowers, in which case it would be a major loss. But I don't think that would be the matchup. But that's what they're going to have to weigh. Like, that's the question, is you rush him back because you want to get off to a strong start. It's a new coaching staff, and they may feel some pressure to do that. Okay, like, I get that. But if he re-aggravates it, now he misses more time than he otherwise would have. That's the worst case scenario. So, and I don't think he's necessarily the kind of guy that you look at and say, okay, well, we're only going to put him out on the field 50% of the time. Like, he's a cornerstone player. He's a guy you're going to build some of your defensive schemes around. He's maybe more, I guess it's better to have him out there than not, but I think he's a guy you want either full go or, we have to do some things differently because we don't have you at your best.
Yeah, you talk about injuries that linger, and hamstring is the number one injury, right? This was initially started that first training camp practice, right? I think it was like one of the first plays at training camp, and now
it was like the first week or something.
Right, and then you see where this has taken him, and that's why it matters of how you take care of it. And former Patriot David Andrews actually tweeted out this morning, just stressing his own concern for, wanting him to be a consistent part of this team and not, going out there for 2 weeks. Then he says, and then down another 6 because it's a little concerning. So you can see how the former Patriots are even aware of how detrimental this could be if it does linger. But how much trouble do you think the Patriots would be in if Gonzo is out long term?
Long-term significant. Again, I just think the Raiders is a unique matchup where I don't want to say that they're okay without Christian Gonzalez because they're not. He's their best player, but that's a team that's going to come in, try to run the football, throw to the tight end. They might be able to they will be able to take some more advantage if Gonzalez isn't out there, but that's not as impactful as a game against, say, Miami with their wide receivers, or Pittsburgh where you get to George Pickens and not George Pickens, DK Metcalf, and some of these other really good receivers they'll face down the road. And Carlton Davis will have to have a bigger workload, but he's been limited at times this summer too. So, no, losing Christian Gonzalez for any period of time would be a significant blow to this defense. He's going to allow them to play differently. When you have a guy like that who's an elite man cover corner, you can essentially take away whatever you want from the offense, whether it be a certain receiver or a certain side of the ball, like left or right or what have you. All right, this guy's going to take this away, and we're going to play 10 on 10 over here. And that makes things just so much easier for the life of a defensive coordinator and a defense as a whole. And look, Carlton Davis is a good corner. It's not like Carlton Davis can't play, but Gonzalez is on another level. He's a top 3 corner in the game. The expectation this year was for him to at least put himself in the conversation for the best player at the position. Anytime you lose a guy like that, it's going to hurt you because it's going to change the way you play fundamentally. This isn't a guy that's just good in his role. This is a guy whose role at times dictates the rest of the defense.